Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man walah. Thank you everyone for being with us once again. This is episode 11 on the truth about love with me, Mizi and
Lisa Surihani. Assalamualaikum everyone. It's great to be back again on another episode. My goodness, MashaAllah, Ustaz, can you imagine we've done a very extensively discussed 10 episodes talking about love, and
from every angle.
from whatever possible angle that we could, trying to be as inclusive, empathic about understanding, how could it be for this certain someone, or whatever situation it may be. We truly hope that thus far, from all the episodes that you've all been listening, it has somewhat been helpful for you one way or another, maybe more ways than one. For you to be able to manage and go through whatever situation it may be with regards to love or cinta.
Indeed, yeah. And I think we are now moving on to the next part of our program, which will focus a bit more on marriage. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think, again, if you are not married yet, I believe our discussions today and in the subsequent episodes will still be of
Helpful.
benefit to you. Yeah, it will be helpful, inshallah. Okay, as a form of preparation. But for those of you already in it, I hope it's going to be something that is relatable to you and something that can help you with whatever challenges that you're dealing with at the moment, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay, so the topic today, Lisa, is making love work in a modern day marriage. Okay, so I didn't want to have this episode to be just about marriage in general, or it could be stuff, that our parents' generation talked about, and with all the respect to them. But I think times have changed. Yeah, times have changed a lot. And today we need to acknowledge that every household looks different.
Yes.
And how people perceive marriage and the marriage and the role that marriage plays in their life has also changed. Yeah. So my question to you first would be, Lisa, when I say a modern day marriage, how do you think that looks like to you?
What comes to mind? I would think that a really clear example will probably be that because back in the day, it is very, very common. It is socially conditioned, understood, and it was the ideal idea that it was only the husband that was the breadwinner.
Yeah.
In a modern day marriage, you now see that it could be that the husband and wife are both co-breadwinners for the household. And I learned from you also, it's a growing trend in Singapore that the wives are the sole breadwinner and the husbands are housemen at home. House husbands, as they call them. House husbands at home. So that the third one that I shared with you, which was having house husbands at home, is something that I'm not used to hearing yet, to be honest.
You have heard, right? But you have heard.
I have heard, but I'm not used to it. You know what I mean? I'm not used to hearing that, it's just the wife going out to work. The husband is doing everything else at home. And this includes the housework, the chores. So he's not just staying at home, goyang kaki. He's actually managing the household at home.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's new. I still feel like it's a new concept to me. So, but then the thing is, it is not unreal.
Yes.
Yeah. So, would that be an example of what?
I think you covered quite a bit there.
Okay.
I think when I look at modern marriages, generally it is still the vast majority. It is a dual income household, like you said, where both husband and wife go out to work, and they could start things off obviously with no kids, and this may be something that they're okay with.
Yes.
But I'm always very mindful when I speak to couples or those who are about to get married, and I ask them, what's your working hours like? And the guy might say, I work off office hours. And the girl might say, I work shift hours. And immediately becomes a concern for me. And I ask them, are you guys okay with this? Have you guys adjusted to your different working hours? Because it means that when you're at home, she's not
Mm.
working. And when she's home, you're out working. When you're home, she just came back from a shift and she's tired, exhausted, she wants to sleep,
Right.
or vice versa. And in the early days, it may not seem like anything to be concerned about, but
Mm.
give it a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Would that be something that you can be okay with? Of course, there are couples who have made it work, yeah.
Yeah,
But
they
I
get used to
they
it
get
somewhat.
used to it somehow. They make it work. But I'm
Mm.
just bringing it up front to the younger couples. I'm
Have
telling
you
them that this is the
given it
reality.
enough thought? Yeah,
The
it's like, have
reality
you
of
given it enough thought?
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
the reality of modern day marriage is that both will work.
Mm.
And when I think 80% of households are like that. So when both parties work and both are contributing to the family, and then it is not so easy for you to say, you know what, I don't like this arrangement, or I feel
Mm.
neglected, or I feel abandoned, or I feel lonely when you're not around, and so on and so forth, which is fine for
Mm.
you to communicate. But then what is the solution?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
some people, Lisa, don't have the luxury of saying, okay lah, then I quit lah. They don't have that luxury because they need both to work.
Yeah, betul.
Yeah, and
That's
especially, I
true.
mean,
Oh my God. Why do I feel like this is like I'm the audience here now? Ustaz.
yeah,
uh,
I think in
okay.
your household that's the case. In my household that's the case. We both work.
All right.
And I guess sometimes it's not because we have to, but because we have gotten accustomed to working, number one. Or
Mm.
number two, we feel like what a waste of my talent and my knowledge and my years of studying in university, and I'm not putting it to
Right.
use.
Right. You kind of want personal growth as well.
Exactly. You want to feel,
Mm.
that you are a person of value, not just for yourself, but also to the community that you're serving, creating an impact in the
Right.
society. That's what you
Understand.
really want, you know. And so
Although
eventually,
although I know what you mean, you're not exactly denouncing the whole idea of, if say a person's a housewife or a house husband. I mean, like, it's really almost like, like, hey, but without with the lack thereof means it's also like it becomes quite dysfunctional as well. It's,
mm,
like macam the person who is a house husband or a housewife is ultimately important to keep things together,
yeah,
but then it's like a really tricky balancing act with regards to, managing the one who has to work in and out,
mm,
clocking in here and there, um so factoring that as well, right? That,
yeah.
this is what we're talking about.
So I believe every couple, before they get married, in fact,
Mm.
just talk to each other. Okay, now you're working, now I'm working. So when we get married, how will this work?
Mm.
Okay. First of all, look into the time factor I mentioned earlier about the working hours.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're done with that, then look at, okay, how much longer do you think you'll be working? And this
Mm.
could be a question that both of you ask each other, because by default in Islam, the man holds the default responsibility to support the family. So this
Yeah.
could be the question that the husband asks the wife, or the guy
Mm.
asks the girl. Say, you know what? You're working now, but we have plans to have children and start a family. Do you see yourself working in the next 10 years? Or maybe up to 5 years, or maybe 15? Like, do you have a plan in your head that you want to tell me? Please tell me so that I know. And I guess this is fair for everyone,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then the guy also knows that I need to, ensure that I progress well in my career, so that when she
Yeah.
decides to quit, then the finances won't be destabilized in the family.
Oh, that's
And
right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you raised a really important
yeah,
really important point there. It's not fair for either one of the partner in the relationship or the marriage to drop a bomb. Like, for example, like, say you may have felt things differently in the beginning of your marriage. Like, you felt like, hey, like, I still want to work, because at that point of time, belum ada kids lagi. Like, you don't have
mm,
your kids yet. Then
mm,
suddenly, like, your family is growing. You have one, you have two, you maybe have three, maybe four.
Mm.
and you're like thinking like, wait, you kind of start feeling differently, and you decide like, macam, like I kind of want to focus on the kids. I want to raise them. I want to didik them. I want to be around them more. I'm
Yes.
not really that comfortable in leaving them with the maid while I'm going off to work. Like I want to spend more time with them or whatever. It wouldn't be fair to right then, for example, to just go like, macam, hey, I want to stop work and that's it. That's my decision. It's final. It has to be something that you kind of have insight of, to be able to talk this out off and on throughout your marriage, like and when you're feeling about it, and it wouldn't be fair to be adamant with your
Yes.
decision. Somewhat I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the,
Because you're a team, you know, you're a team. Whatever decision you make, it's going to affect the other. It's
unless the income bracket is not that upper lah. Like macam, okay, for example, the
yeah,
husband feels like, macam, okay, all right, like your choice, it's fine.
yeah.
I think I can manage it.
Mm.
But if it's a situation where like actually for all these years, your side of the income has been quite helping the household stay afloat,
Mm.
then suddenly you're giving him this percentage of like it's almost like, macam, I'm giving you a new pie to make,
Yeah.
and it's a whole new pie. You can handle lah everything, so it'd be quite like, although by default, like you said, by default in Islam, the husband is to provide.
But
yeah.
it's always nice. Again, remember, you're a team. You're married to each other. You love each other. Don't just drop a bomb, like you said. I mean, give each other a heads up. Yeah, give each other a heads up. One of the most. I mean, we're doing this in the midst of the pandemic, right? And there are some men who lost their jobs. Unfortunately, they were retrenched. Unfortunately, and it is one of the things that they find great shame in. They don't even know sometimes how to go back home and break the news to their wife.
Right, absolutely.
It's just not easy for a man to sometimes deal with that.
Yeah.
But having said that, you also mentioned about earlier the group of, or rather the couples who have now switched roles almost,
Yes.
where
Yes.
the wife is agreeable and is okay and wants to go out to work, and she does not mind at all that the husband stays home. Now, this is still quite rare, but it's like I said, I'm getting more and more people coming up to me and telling me that this is their arrangement. Sometimes they're coming to me to ask whether this is okay, because they want to proceed with it.
Right.
And I always tell them to always be careful. And I told them the default rules, and I told them that the husband can never say, if the wife wants to quit one day and say, oh, no, cannot, we agree already. I mean, you need to be okay. You need to be ready for that. But I
Right.
guess it's also because of the trends of how far women have come, mashallah,
Right.
when it comes to education.
MashaAllah. Yeah.
And there are more graduates, female graduates, and so on. So
Right.
taking all of that into account, this could be something that we see more of. Yeah. So when you mentioned about helpers just now, I think because both parties go out to work, sometimes a helper is needed. And it's not so much to take care of the kids. For example, I have 4 kids, my wife, and we didn't have a helper until the 4th one came. So we
Which I
tried,
find pretty amazing.
yeah, we tried our best to just maintain, doing it on our own I mean, in the
It's
earliest we had,
almost Ustaz, it's almost like you're surprised yourself how you guys managed to this
really,
day. It's
really,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
I think we
Right.
did sit down one day and we just looked back, wow, how did we survive, man? You know,
Mm-mm.
but
Well done,
it
guys.
was something that I insisted eventually, because I felt like, both of us, my wife even more, we could do with a little bit of a break, and so that we can relax a little bit more. We don't have to think about 1,001 things in our head, because there's work to think about.
Right.
And then the next day, kids are going to school, and then we need to prepare, their bags. We need to check whether there's enough milk, diapers, things like that.
Right.
We need to check whether they've done their homework. There's a lot to do. Parenting is tough for sure, especially in today's context. So we don't really leave the kids with the helper. All of them go to
Okay.
school. All of them. So in spite of having a helper, we still send them to childcare, full day childcare, and we so that at least there's something that they learn there, and they get to intermingle and socialize with friends, get used to that.
Right.
Um, but the helper helps out with the house chores, and there's a lot.
Right.
With
Yeah.
6 people in the household, imagine the amount of laundry you need to do. Imagine the
Oh,
amount of ironing you need to do, right?
yes, yes,
Just that
yes.
alone, not even
And then
talking
after
about
the
food,
ironing, the lipating and
lipating.
hanging some of the and and also the hanging of some clothes as well and
Yeah,
all that. It's a
yeah.
lot. Yes, yes, yes.
But we survived the first 3 kids, and when the fourth came, still a baby, that's when we got our first helper.
I
But
see.
yeah, I would say that every couple needs to assess their level of ability to handle the amount of work that
Mm,
needs to be done at home,
mm,
and consider their mental well-being as well. Yeah,
mm.
yeah, because it can get
Yeah,
quite
actually,
overwhelming.
now that you mention it, it kind of reminds me of the conversation that Yusri and I had a few years ago.
Hmm.
Before we got the helpers that we have at home is a couple, husband and wife, and like I remembered him saying to me that I think we need helpers in the house to help out so that you don't spread yourself too thin.
Mm.
So I'm guessing that's probably also what you intended as well to help your wife. Like I think to a certain extent, like maybe what my husband meant with that as well is that it's a lot of things to do to to fit in, and it's like although we have 24 hours in a day but we're not awake for 24 hours, right? Like cut that by half,
Mm.
you know and there's so it feels like there's way too much to do in a day,
And way
but
too little time.
and perhaps it's not just way too little time for each other but also for myself. He's probably worried that I might be burned out before anything, like there is overdrive every day,
It's the exact same concern that I brought up to my wife.
all right, okay.
Just that a different way of saying it than usually. But the
Okay,
point was exactly the same.
right,
We
right,
were
right.
concerned because then how would it affect our marriage? How would it affect our relationship? And that's why
Yeah,
we want to talk about this today, because
yes,
the burnout that you mentioned is real. And
okay.
some couples give up on their marriage because of that, because they feel like they are taking on too much.
Mm,
Whether it's lopsided in terms of responsibilities, they feel like they're doing most of the job. And this could be a perception issue, right?
mm,
Like how men, in the old days always felt like they were taking the load of the family by going out to work 12 hours a day, for example.
mm-mm.
And then the women start feeling that no, I'm doing more. And so it's a perception thing. I think both parties are doing their part, carrying their roles,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So let's now, if we talk about dual income households, both go out to work. I think when both come back home, both have to do the household chores together.
yelah.
Yeah, macam itulah. Then it's balanced. Then it's
Mm,
fair. Then there's little room for you to argue, because as much as we always hear relationship coaches, they say, you should never be calculative in a marriage, for sure. But at the end of the day, we're still human, and we notice ourselves doing a lot more. Sometimes it's in our head, and we say, "Alamak, see, I'm doing this. Dah balik rumah penat-penat, I'm still doing
why
this."
aren't you doing it?
Yes, but it could also be incorrect, right?
Mm,
It could be that your partner has been doing a lot, but they've not
you
been complaining, or they're
right.
not showing, or they're not telling you.
They're not
You know,
highlighting, like,
not
you see what
highlighting.
I've done, you
You
see
know,
what
so
I did.
funny thing is sometimes I notice, right, whenever I do something, let's say I wash the dishes, kappa, and I
Mm.
always feel like there is this part of me that I need to tell her that I've done it.
Oh, really?
And then I notice that sometimes I leave in a house the
I
whole
love the
day.
honesty.
Yeah, I leave the house the whole day, and I come back, and then like she barely tells me anything that she's done, which doesn't make sense because clearly
Mashallah.
she's done a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it's a mindset thing that why do I need to raise it? Why do I need to bring it up?
Right.
Sometimes I would just lie down and I would say, by the way, I clean the dishes already. Macam saja je nak bilang, but it's like
I really have to share with you this. Like, you know, we were talking about how do we make, how do we, how do we like make the love, or rather the marriage, you know, okay, still okay. Padahal dual income ni, like macam masing-masing busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like it got me thinking. It wasn't so much an issue when we both didn't have kids. Like both Yusri and I from the very beginning discussed about, you know, how do we do this, like, you know, like I'm working, you're working still, you know, like he asked me, I think I really appreciate that of him, where he asked me whether or not I wanted to continue working or I wanted to stop working. And I think he was going to respect my decision anyhow. This was the beginning of the marriage. And I said to him, oh, would it be okay if I still work? I asked him, you know, and he was like, you know, if that's what you want, you know, like I support your decision. So it's okay. So at that time, the way I susun our daily lives, our monthlies, you know, so I I would have our calendar, and everything that he has to do is also in our calendars, which is
Yeah.
shared. You know, now with technology, it's so easy that the both of us, like, it's not just that personal organizer that you would have last time and write things down, and it's just me who can access it, or if he doesn't open it up to see it, then he wouldn't be able to see it. But if it's also on his phone, then it's easy, right? So it was quite easy to manage that, because we could have an overview of what's what, you know, like I could see dia kerja berapa lama for a particular project. He could also, and vice versa. And although we were both working, there is the good, one of the plus points that the both of us have, because the nature of our work is not 9 to 5. You know what I mean? Like
it could be long hours, right?
It could easily be long hours, yes. That's the downside, in the sense where, because, you know, there are days that we work for more than 12 hours a day. Sometimes, you know, like we could easily reach 23 hours, even more than 24 hours. That has happened before, you know. Production work can be like that. Although now there's a lot of improvement being done about that. Both of us are sort of like fully aware of okay, how
Each
much we
other's
have to
schedule.
make, each other's schedule, how much we have to make by to stay afloat, to be able to pay the bills and stuff like that. So we were able to somewhat, like, even decide on certain things that we don't take, in order to be able to have time together. So for example, like he gets this particular project, and then maybe say the amount for that project that he can receive is, say, X amount, and then I go like, okay, all right, maybe I can forgo. So then you start discussing. It seems like opportunity cost lah kan, macam, because you let go of certain income on my part. But then, like, it seemed bearable and workable to do that. And then those times I'm spending time with him. I would go to his location and spend time with him and all that. So and all that lah. But things changed when the kids arrived.
Yeah.
Because it was not about each other anymore. It was more about how are we going to be able to spend time with the kids, because the both of us are working.
Yes.
And
I think that's the same thing we faced as well. Everything changed the moment we had kids. How long into the marriage until you got your first one?
3 years.
3 years. I think mine is about the same, about 2.5, close to 3 years. Then we had the first one. So we had to adjust for sure. Having kids means that, you know, we are going to make them the number one priority, whether we like it or not. They're going to be number one. You know, so it's really about, okay, how do we still make time for each other in spite of having the kids with us? But
at least you had that in mind. Like,
of
I
course,
think,
yes, of
you know,
course.
like, but I think for Yusri and I, we kind of forgot that when the kids came, like when Yahaira came into our lives, it was all about Yahaira. It
Mm.
was like okay, I would like suddenly the energy, the focus and all that was kind of like macam okay, how do we tweak our schedule so that we can be with Yahira,
Mm.
you know? And then to be honest with you, like after a few years, there were moments that it felt as though like wait, our connection with each other seemed that there's a complacency
Mm.
because I happened to be there and he happened to be there, but we weren't really focusing on our energies with each other.
Mm-hmm.
That is because we are so caught up with life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just either about work or kids, work or kids, work
Yes,
or kids, but
but
about
but
each
s-
other too.
but still, it's good that you guys notice that. Some
Yeah.
couples don't even notice it, and they pretend like everything is okay. So
Or they think it's actually like, oh, we've lost the flame of love. Like
yeah,
that's the perception.
yeah, and that's
Mm.
what we're gonna talk about in the next episode about the spark.
Mm.
But there's a lot to talk about. I guess the point here for this episode is trying to make a modern day marriage work is going to be challenging, and there needs to be a lot that needs to be sorted out. And the way you
Mm.
sort things out is by communicating regularly, from not having kids to having kids, from not having a helper to having helper, from
Yeah.
having two people working to maybe cutting it down to one person working. How do you survive and how do you make it work?
Will we
You
be
know,
will we be able to and stuff
yeah,
like that? Right, right,
yeah.
right, right.
And I like the scheduling part you mentioned. I think there is some little advantage in your case because you kind of
Uh-uh.
are in the same industry.
Yes.
But there are many other couples out there, they don't understand their partner's industry at all. They don't understand their partner's work at all. They don't understand,
Yeah.
and it's going to take a while for them to adjust. 3 years. Ada yang satu ni,
Yeah.
dia punya husband dia, one couple ni kerja, kapal lah. Macam, so he's going to be
Oil
away.
rig, right? Oil rig, where he's away for
Correct,
6 months kind of
correct.
thing.
And I was like, how do you make that work, man? But they
Yeah,
said,
and they have to
Alhamdulillah,
go
okay.
through LDR for like half of the year, kan?
Yeah. And so,
Kesian, kesian.
kesian lah. But apparently, they are understanding of each other and they can make it work. I mean, if you think
Mm.
about it, days when our parents' generation yang ada kerja macam itu, there were no video
Oh,
calls, there were no FaceTimes, there were no,
yes, betul juga.
how did they
Eh?
survive? Itu lagi susah. So, I
Yeah.
mean, if you think about it, Alhamdulillah, with technology, maybe that's how they keep things together.
Right, right. Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned about, okay, the scheduling part, I have an assistant, I have a personal assistant. So
Mm-mm.
my, we don't I don't share a calendar with my wife directly
Okay.
because my wife doesn't need to know what I do every day. But every now and then she will ask my assistant for my schedule.
Okay.
Macam because she wants to go out or she wants to make
Coincide. Yeah,
plans.
she probably wants to coincide. And maybe if she wants to plan a trip or something, she
Correct.
might need to
So for
know your
example, like
schedule.
this December, wants to do some staycation. So she will check, okay, which weekend Mizi is free. Well, unfortunately, no weekends I'm free, but she tries to
Oh.
go the least busy period so
Mm-mm,
that
mm-mm.
we can do something together.
I
So
see.
so
Okay.
that can also be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other point you mentioned about money, very taboo, but definitely something that you need to talk about. I
Mm.
think there is added stress juggling so many responsibilities, and at the same time, having to think about the many bills that come to you every month.
Yeah.
Today, we're paying more bills than our parents ever did, right?
Mm-mm.
With net, with how many handphone numbers and lines, with Netflix or whatever subscriptions that you are on, apa lagi Spotify ke apa benda ke.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. It's no longer the same kind of like accounts list that we learned in school, right? Like because
no.
there's a lot of all these hidden costs yang
Dulu
kita
like
kena factor
water,
in.
electricity,
Yeah, you,
super
you
basic.
remember that, huh?
Yeah. So
In
now it's a
school.
lot more, guys.
Mm-mm.
So you need to be realistic. And then if you have a car, if you have a
Mm.
motorcycle, if that's additional thing.
Betul,
If you
betul.
decide to take on insurance, kan, there's a
Yeah.
lot more. So if you think about it, wow, kadang-kadang, Lisa, the least favorite thing for me is to go to the mailbox and check the mail because I know 80% of them will be bills.
Bills,
I don't
yes,
like it. So
yes. I
most of the
understand.
things I just put on gyro so that, budak
Oh,
je lah, I
yeah,
don't want
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. Oh,
because
you mean you do it auto, is it?
yeah, quite a number of them
Monthly?
I do auto because
Uh,
in all honesty, I think even for
as
me,
long as it's done, dah.
no, I think it's more of it does get to me, when I see all the numbers, it does
I
get to me.
see.
So whenever
Okay.
I feel I'm okay, I'll check. And then I see, electricity spending, because recently COVID and everyone at home and macam,
Yeah, yeah,
whoa, the
yeah.
bills like
Oh, yes,
spiked.
yes. Betul, betul.
But once in a while I will do that and I will check lah. But I don't like to do it every month. Because I think it's just unnecessary stress to look at them. And then I have
Yeah,
4 kids. So 4 kids, what? It means all of them are the school fees.
betul.
And then all of quite a number of them are the what do you call this? Transportation fees. And then
Ah.
the CCA fees. And
Mm-mm.
then tuition. And then
Mm-mm.
enrichment classes. Oh my God. Now
Mm-mm.
as I'm listing it down, I'm starting to
Okay, okay. Breathe, breathe.
okay. But
Breathe,
Alhamdulillah,
breathe.
I just keep doing what I do, and my wife keeps doing what she does, and everything's good. But if we have had times when we discussed whether we want to pull our kids out from certain things, whether it's school,
Yeah,
yeah,
is it really
whether it is
necessary for them and
correct,
all
the
that stuff?
enrichment
Yeah,
classes, are
betul,
we
betul.
spending too much there? We do that, of course. And every
Yeah.
couple should continue to do that, because we don't want, the last thing we want is for the marriage to be on the rocks because of money. Yeah.
Mm,
Be clear, be open, no matter how
yeah.
sensitive it may be, no matter how uncomfortable it gets,
Mm.
get it out of the way and talk it out.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Like one of the main points that we have to highlight here a bit from Ustaz Mizi's share just now is how important it is to actually, when people say marriage is hard work, marriage is hard work, not just about how you feel about one another, but is the sustainability of your livelihood on
Mm,
on a daily basis, monthly basis. And then when there's children involved, those are children is all your amanah, takkan nak biar je and all that, all this kena fikirkan juga kan.
mm,
Like but then at the same time, for sanity, to be able to understand yourselves, understand each other, the you the communication between one another has to happen quite often, to discuss, like, hey, like, how do we work this out for the better, for ourselves, for each other, for the kids, for the household. Like, it's like instead of managing a company, it's like managing the household lah. Because just like, when yesterday, like, and I think it's important to discuss as well. Why? Because like yesterday I was managing my finances again, like, because in my case, I do it monthly. I'm starting to get your point about, like, macam maybe, like, don't do it like every month, stress. But I, I do it monthly. Pardon lah, I stress sometimes. Um, but monthly too, I can revisit and really, like, have an overview of, like, okay, what are the assets that I have to pay for every month, or like what are the liabilities that I have to pay
mm.
out for. And with as years pass, the liabilities macam nampak macam lebih, the kids punya fees, for example, gets more expensive as the years pass and all that kind. And I shared with my husband, I said, like, yesterday, this was just yesterday, can you imagine?
Mm.
I said to him yesterday, I said, like, I was handling my finances today. It was quite stressful, when I was writing it all down all over again, just to see, if we're managing well, if we're all managing well.
Mm.
Are we saving enough or well enough for the kids and all that? Because, like, you're thinking not just about your monthlies, you're thinking about, future
Yeah.
savings, all that
Yeah.
kind. And then he said to me, which was helpful, to be honest. He said to me, like, InsyaAllah, it will all be okay, sayang. It will be
Mm.
okay, he said to
Mm.
me. And I was like, because I shared with him that I it was daunting, you know. And it's that, right? Sometimes, when you're
Mm.
handling finances and you're looking and you're thinking, boleh ke tak, like, um, barely making ends meet, stuff like that. A lot of things come to mind
Mm.
when it comes to managing finances, and these are all quite common. Like, I think a lot of you can somewhat
A lot of
relate.
yes, I think
You
a lot
know,
of people can relate to this.
yeah,
Cost of living is definitely going up. I
yeah,
can say for a fact in Singapore, it's pretty high.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I think my role is quite similar. My wife worries, and my job is to assure her. And I think there always needs to be somebody in the family to be that to play that role. If one party
yeah,
is very, very worried, then you need to give them the assurance that inshallah everything's going to be okay.
And I think we kind of also have to be transparent about our concerns as well to the partner. Like, for example, like, I think this is also for the husbands as well. But, I know that it stems from good intention. You don't want your partner to worry. You know what I mean?
But
like you said, Ustaz, you're a team, and it's not necessarily about allowing for your partner or assuming that the partner is supposed to give you the solution for it, or like, okay, this is what you do and I'll solve the problem for you. It's not necessarily that, but the both of you are keeping each other informed, like, hey, this is the current situation that we're in. For example, if we happen to have a debt,
yes,
or something like that,
oh yes, yeah.
like, and it has to be transparently discussed, that, like, this is a situation and all that, like, and then perhaps, you could ask each other, like, what do you think, how do you think we can solve this, and help each other out. And I think that would also help with the connection that you have with your partner, because it's not just about, like, hey, sorry lah, it's your problem lah, your debt, what, if it's your debt, you pandai lah, you
Yeah, I've
fikirkan
heard
macam mana.
couples yang kesian because even before they get married, Alyssa, they were not very transparent that they have credit card debt and so on. So ada satu couple ni lepas dah kahwin, tiba-tiba the wife found out he has $40,000 debt.
That's in Malaysian ringgit, that's very high.
Very painful, right, to hear.
Very here.
So when you hear something like that, and then the husband barely makes effort to pay monthly, and it goes up and up, the interest and everything.
Yelah.
So the wife gets so stressed that the wife starts paying it for him. And then the husband pula naik lemak, and then the husband just lets it be. The wife, okay lah, you so worried, you pay lah.
Nothing good comes out of that kind of situation, because like at one point the wife is thinking like, oh my God, like, like I tolong you lah and all that. But because of the fact that this is not really discussed properly, or like thinking like, macam, hey, like, for the time being I can help you, but you're gonna have to pay me back, for example, and let it be known.
Yes.
But at the same time, like at the back of your mind, you're losing respect because you're the one paying for the debt.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And these are all real issues, and this can happen. At the same time, like, like the receiving end, the one, like, macam rasa like, okay lah, since you're helping me and all that, but at the same time it's eating him alive. He doesn't like this feeling as well. Like, macam being fended by, his own mistakes in life and all that kind, macam. Yeah. It's a very tricky situation.
Yeah, thank you for breaking it down, because those are exactly the things that we don't see, but they are happening day by day. The more you continue and allow those things to happen, the more the feelings will get affected, and the loss of respect, the loss of dignity for the husband, self-worth. So it's never gonna end up being good. So just as much as I was saying, one party needs to be the one giving assurance, I think the disclaimer that I needed to add is you cannot pretend like a big problem is not a big problem just because you want to make your partner feel good. The best thing you can do is to be honest, right, Lisa? Honesty is the best policy when it comes to this. You need to be honest. You cannot just say, you don't need to know lah how much I still owe, just doakan je everything okay. No, I think it's only fair, because if anything happens to you, your partner is the one that carries the burden. And when you think of it that way, and if you really love your partner, you would not do that to them. So be upfront and be honest when it comes to all of these things.
Okay, yeah, good one. So I guess like in a way where how, I guess, like, one of the things that we could summarize is how important communication is with each other, kan, with regards to this. Like, we cannot sort of like, I think some realities that we have to highlight is also how to avoid feeling aku penat lah cakap pasal ni. I understand that how that can happen, but I think insyaAllah, like, if you put your niat to wanting to try to make things better, also submitting to Allah that like ya Allah ya Tuhanku, permudahkanlah usaha aku untuk memperbaiki keadaan ni, tapi at the same time like reda that it is him yang boleh tolong untuk memperluaskan rezeki, untuk meluaskan kesempitan yang kita lalui. Like macam we, to a certain degree also, I think maybe reminding each other in the marriage about Allah's decree that he, like Bismillahi tawakkaltu Allahi la hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Like macam I think we it'd be also good for each other's heart, mind, psyche juga when we help each other that way as well. I don't know, what do you think, Ustaz?
Very true. We should never underestimate spirituality, all this making du'as for each other, making du'as to Allah, making dhikr regularly to give yourself calmness, peace, tranquility. And so you should never abandon the spiritual part and just work and work and work, because when you get too stressed up, there's nothing else that will help you. So you need to have these two things together. And you also cannot do just spiritual part je, doa je, tapi kerja tak, kan?
Betul. We have to remember, we always have to remember about how like macam takdir doesn't just come without effort ataupun the repercussions of circumstance. Like macam kita kena, that there is that usaha, like you mentioned, that effort that we must have, whilst at the same time understanding that like sometimes like like as they say, like we are planners but Allah is the best of all planners, or like macam we make usaha but if Allah decided that this is not for you, it's not for you. Rezeki tak salah alamat, and stuff like that. So macam benda macam tu we have to try to also balance and maybe help each other, like as a couple of that. Like macam for example, like maybe we see our husbands working so hard day in day out and all that to help to keep the family afloat, to make ends meet and all that stuff and all that, sampai mungkin you feel that like he's going on overdrive juga and all that stuff. Sometimes maybe we need to be that source of like, hey, like I see it, I really appreciate it and all that stuff, blah blah blah. Acknowledge how hard he's been working and show how much you appreciate him for that and love him for that and all that, but whilst at the same time like try and slowly, subtly, without having to nag it to him, like to remind him that like mudah-mudahan usaha ni will bring upon result that you wish for, tapi let's open up our hearts about understanding that kalau rezeki tu bukan kita punya, mungkin ada jalan lain yang kita kena tengok and stuff like that. So just to let him,
that's really like, good. That's really very comprehensive, and it applies to anyone, whether you're in business, because sometimes in business your partner may be putting in a lot of effort preparing the proposal and whatever not, the research, the meetings, and then suddenly tak dapat the project. Or it could be that your spouse lost a job and now have been trying, applying for tons of jobs, going for many interviews, and yet not getting the results that he or she wants. And then here you are, you need to play your part and say, it's okay, I see that you're trying. It's better than just sitting down passively and hoping for a miracle to fall on your lap.
Right.
I see it and I appreciate it. Those are very powerful words that you can say.
And like I think I remember like off and on sometimes, like Yusri and I would have conversations about, like because in our line of work we would sometimes have to pitch in order to get the job, like in business, right? Like you pitch, and if the company is granted the chance to get it, then alhamdulillah. But of course sometimes you may pitch and rezeki is not yours, right? And like I remember how Yusri was feeling very empathic about me not getting a particular role, for example, that I was casting for, and I mentioned to him that like if it's not meant to be mine, it's not. Then he was like, oh, okay, it's nice to see that you're taking this quite well. And I said, alhamdulillah, but the fact that you were empathic about it also makes me feel nice about it. Like, you were concerned about how I felt about it, And I think that's nice as well, even though, like, you know, if I think if even if your partner is able to deal with it quite well, but the fact that you're still empathic about it
Mm,
for your partner, I think that also helps to make it feel, like it's like icing on the cake, basically.
definitely.
Mm.
Definitely. All right, guys. I think that will be the end of today's discussion. I hope it gave you some insights. It makes you
Hopefully, yeah.
think and reflect on your own relationship and how it can be better. And for those who are not married yet, there's a lot for you to think about. But I guess the one of the main takeaways, as Lisa said earlier, is communication. It's
You
key.
said.
You said it also in the summary. So we both said it, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Never underestimate the importance of it, and
Yeah,
I hope from here on our relationships will improve, and our awareness of each other's need for communication also increases. Okay.
inshallah. Ameen.
Thank you so much. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.